What's up, and welcome to another edition of 40-Minute Debates, where two parties argue the most triggering social and political issues in 40 minutes or less. My name is Tyler Bluntman, and I am going to be your host today. Now, today's topic, should Americans defund the police? So let's go ahead and introduce our contenders. Advocating for defunding the police is Ryan, also known as Leftism is Liberty on TikTok. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
All good, brother, all good. Advocating against defunding the police is Bryson Gray, also known as Bryson Creates on IG. What's up, bro?
You're Trump 2020 on the gang.
Right.
Guess I better throw in my Bernie 2020.
Right. So viewers watching will be able to vote on who they think won in this debate by visiting our Instagram page at 40-Minute Debates. Now remember, the person that wins the debate isn't necessarily the person who you agree with the most, but the person who made you think the most. The poll will only be up for 24 hours after this video airs, so go ahead and vote quickly. Now let me tell you how this is going to break down. Each of you will get 3 minutes to present your opening statements. After this, you will have 6 rounds of rebuttals, 5 minutes each. During each rebuttal, one person will lead the conversation as they see fit. When it's your time, you can ask your opponent questions, you can address their stance, or forfeit any remaining time that you do not wish to use. The debate will then conclude with 2 minutes closing statements from each of you. Do either of you have any questions before we get started?
Nope.
All right. So we did figure this out off air. Ryan is going to start it off. So Ryan, you will have up to 3 minutes for your opening statement. So go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
All right. So my opening statement is pretty simple. I'm just going to read it off. All right. The current policing system is simply ineffective. If our goal is to reduce crime and keep our communities safer, I assume that's a shared goal. Then the massive amounts of tax dollars going to the police departments is simply not worth the money we spend on it. Even as the U.S. has adopted the various tough-on-crime policies of the 1980s and 90s, as well as exponentially increasing our police spending since the 80s and 90s, the rate of crime in impoverished communities is still more than double that of those in middle-class and wealthy communities, as well as crime rates have not sizably decreased since the 1980s. So we can all agree that the status quo crime rates are too high, correct? And that we should be enacting public policy that reduces crime. So my central argument of this entire debate is quite simple. When we defund the police, an institution that has proven its ineffectiveness at reducing crime, we then use that same tax money as capital that would be reinvested in communities with high crime rates. The police have long served as a band-aid to the problem of crime, but the time has passed for the need of a band-aid. Today, I will be arguing for a shift in public policy to heal the conditions that cause crime in the first place, instead of simply arresting the perpetrators. As we all know, if you arrest one drug dealer, another will just take his place the next day. However, my plan would eliminate the incentive and the need to turn to drug dealing, so we cut the problem off at its source. So, in summary, my plan to defund the police would be more effective at reducing crime than any other plan that involves maintaining the police's current level of funding or increasing it. And then I guess if I have a little bit of time left, I'll move into my first contention, and that is that policing is not the best way to stop crime. And so my argument is as follows. Policing is simply a deterrent. It simply acts as a threat of violence to disincentivize the committing of that crime. However, policing itself does not necessarily remedy the conditions that prompted people to commit the crime in the first place. So I contend that the true way to reduce crime and keep our communities safe is to use that massive amount of money we spend on the police, hundreds of $billions a year. I believe the number is $115 billion across the nation. And then we invest that into social programs like education, community health centers, and social workers for troubled homes in order to remedy the awful circumstances that cause crime in the first place. And I guess to summarize, my plan for this debate is to cut police funding significantly and reallocate those funds to social programs. And I concede the rest of my time.
Okay. All right, Bryson, are you all good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, man, go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Well, I'm basing my view off what they're doing in Minneapolis currently and what they're attempting to do in New York, which is trying to replace the current system of police with community-led protection services. And I don't know what that means. I'm talking about neighborhood watch because they don't even know what it really means yet. So off the rip, it sounds insane. So I wouldn't really know his thoughts on that. But just as a response to what he said, to defund the police and use that money for social programs. And he also used he said a statement about how even the tough, crime bills they had put together in the 90s, crime has doubled. But the thing he also forgot to mention is we've had a lot of social programs during that time too, and crime has also doubled. So social programs are obviously not the answer, because the truth of the matter is the answer is to change culture. I don't think education will matter if people going to school not caring about education because they want to go sell dope because they're listening to NBA YoungBoy every day, or all their favorite rappers are talking about shooting up the ops block, spinning their block twice. Because I'm gonna be honest, when I listen to some of this gangster music, I want to go spin the block on the ops. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, you have to change culture and media and a lot of things like that if you actually want to bring down crime. So yeah.
Bet. All right, cool. So we're going to run into our first round of rebuttals. Now, Ryan, you're going to be up first. Your time is yours as you see fit. So if you want to talk to Bryson, if you just want to talk at Bryson or ask him questions, whatever you want, your time is yours to use how you see fit. Go ahead.
All right, I think I'm going to do a little bit of everything. So, first of all, when we talk about Minneapolis, Minneapolis is the most radical example we have. However, I'm not arguing a radical position. I'm arguing simply to defund the police. That's what the premise of the debate is: defund, not abolish and replace. And so, while Minneapolis may be hit by the George Floyd riots very hard, they may want to take a more radical position to try and remedy those the circumstances they're under now. However, the rest of the country is not likely to follow suit. So I think we should shift the debate more to simply defunding the police than abolition. Also, the contention that social programs are not effective. Well, Bill Clinton's main policy platform is actually to gut social programs in the 90s, where we saw a massive spike of crime. So while I'm not going to try and draw a causative link, I just want to say that your statement that social programs were also around at that time is not exactly completely accurate. And finally, for the change the culture point, I have to ask, how does culture form? I'm asking this question to Bryson. How exactly does culture form?
How does culture form? Well, culture is usually, I can speak on Black culture because that's what I grew up in.
I'm just speaking culture in general. Like, how does a culture develop?
Well, I'm just speaking on my experiences. It forms based on the entertainment, what you view, not what you go through, but what you see with your own eyes, your experiences, what you hear, what you're influenced by. So I think that's what the culture is. Like in the Black community, culture is music, culture is clubbing, culture is.
Sorry, you answered my question. If I could just use my time. So the way culture forms from like a sociological perspective, your culture is a product of your environment, right? So your environment would also include the media and stuff like that. However, I think the main proponent of culture is the massive poverty that is present in crime-ridden communities, because we can draw a causative link between poverty and high crime rates. That's according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, considering that impoverished communities have a double the crime rate of wealthier middle-class communities. So I think that the poverty contributes more to the culture, because when you have poverty and low socioeconomic opportunity, the incentive to turn to crime is much greater. So it's only logically follows that more people in impoverished communities would commit crime, and then crime also comes along with this type of desensitization, like violence and other forms of things we consider morally reprehensible. Because when you see it on a daily basis, when your communities are ravaged by crime as a product of poverty, then you're going to have this you may develop this more crime-based culture, at least where crime is not seen as as reprehensible as wealthier cultures. Now that is not an attack on Black culture, I will say. It's an attack on impoverished culture, because whites live in poverty too. The same, the crime statistics between Black and white communities are pretty much the same. It's not really a racial thing, at least in the research I've done. And so what I'm trying to say here is that when we remedy poverty, we remedy the need for a higher for a more funded police department. And so what we should do is we should, cut police spending and reinvest it back into those communities to alleviate poverty, which has the side effect of also alleviating crime. And so when we bring socioeconomic opportunity to a community, the culture will also start to shift away from this desensitization to crime. And I think that's all I got. How much time do I have left?
You have a minute, and I'm so sorry. I should have let you know. You have a minute 45.
I guess I'll concede my time. That's all I had to say.
Okay. Bryson, 5 minutes on the clock. You can go ahead and use your time as you see fit, man.
Yes, sir. So the reason I brought up the being in Minneapolis is because that's the only reason I'm having this conversation, period. They actually, if I'm not mistaken, they're the only people that actually voted on defunding the police and disbanding the police. They're the only people that's actually putting it in action and trying to put it into action. So that's why that is very necessary to this conversation, because that's the one thing we have to actually go off of. They actually had a plan. They actually brought this up. So we have to use that, because that's the reason for this conversation. So, I mean, you can't just ignore Minneapolis unless you only ignoring it because it'll ruin your points. You see what I'm saying? So they telling you what they're going to do. They're telling you they plan to replace the police. You say your plan is to replace it with social programs. They basically said the same thing, plus they're going to have a community-led protection.
I didn't say replace. I meant reduce funding. The police would still exist.
So in your world, the police will still exist. So you disagree with what's going on in Minneapolis?
I think they're taking the radical position that I don't agree with. I'm simply arguing for the more moderate position of simply defunding the police, not abolition.
So I'm just making sure that you disagree with them so I can get that correct. So you don't agree with them at all. Your plan is to just simply defund the police in your hypothetical situation, defund the police and spend that money. How much? $1 billion?
Well, the current police budget is about $115 billion on a national scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it would be, not exactly productive to argue just how much we should cut, because that's more on a municipal basis. So I think it'd be left up to, the states and the cities to determine how much they should reinvest.
Okay, I have an example for you. So in New York, they plan to defund the police, decrease their budget from, I think, $6 billion to $5 billion, and use that $1 billion for social programs.
Cool. I support that.
I
wish they'd go even further, but sure.
Further as in what?
Cut more money. I mean, the NYPD is one of the highest funded police departments in the nation, along with like Houston and LA. So I think they could definitely cut a lot of their police budget.
Yeah, that also means they have to decrease their police force by 3,000 people at a minimum.
I'd have to see those numbers, but
yeah,
I guess so. I guess we can buy that.
I mean, that's okay with you. So that's what I mean. Less police officers on duty in New York. That's okay.
Yeah.
So less protection, because you still want the police. So if you want the police still, then I mean they're there. They are there to protect. If you have less of them to protect, then I was confused on how that works. But I
think you're making the fundamental sorry, am I interrupting too much here? Is this a bad use of time? Or should I just let Bryson keep going?
Let me just go to the next one real quick. My next point. Also, you said that culture is a product of our environment, which is literally what I said. But you said poverty forms culture. If poverty forms culture, why isn't country music talk about killing everybody? Why isn't Latino music talk about, murking people off in Spanish? You know what I'm saying? I don't hear that. Secondly, you said that in poor white communities, they have the same violent crime rate as in poor black communities. And I would like to see that statistic, because I'm willing to bet that is not accurate. And neither is it accurate in poor Hispanic communities overall in the country. You could probably pinpoint certain Hispanic neighborhoods, of course, like in LA or something like that. But overall, those statistics are not accurate. I'm done though.
All right. Okay. So
you forfeit the rest of your time?
Yeah.
Okay. Why you keep muting yourself?
So I don't know. I don't want those extra sounds when other people talking.
All right, that's all good. That's all good. All right, cool. So we are going back to you, Ryan. This is your second rebuttal. You have up to 5 minutes, so you go ahead and use your time as you see fit, man.
All right. So for the Minneapolis, if we're going to definition argue, I don't think that's really productive. I'd rather stick to critiquing the substance of my argument than just arguing what defund the police means. Considering that all across the nation, different police departments are considering measures similar to Minneapolis, just not to their extent. So the idea of defunding the police is wildly popular right now, all across the nation, not just in Minneapolis. And also, you've made the claim that less police officers is somehow said something about how less police officers would be bad. Well, I have a example for that. So in New York, the police officers in 2014 to 2015, that rough time period, actually did what was called a slowdown, as in they basically stopped policing as much as in an attempt to get better wages and better conditions from the New York City. However, what happened was crime actually went down. And not reported crime. I want to be very specific here. 911 calls were still being made. People were still reporting crimes. It's just that crime overall went down. And I have an explanation for this. There was a criminology paper published in 2017 after criminological analysis was done of the situation. And they found that the police, whenever they were overburdensome on the community, whenever they policed too much, they caused some type of community disruption that actually increased crime. And so I think the idea of somehow putting more police officers into a community would simply further that disruption of the social fabric and likely contribute to more crime, as was found in that paper. And finally, for the your point about how country music doesn't talk about like killing people and such. Well, I'm not saying that culture, the development of culture is very intersectional, as in there's not one factor you can point to. I just put poverty as the primary factor of what dictates culture. So I would have to do a much more in-depth analysis about country music and why it doesn't talking about killing people as much. But uh, I find it hard to believe that the music of a culture is somehow contributing to double the crime rate in poor communities. I just don't see how that's. I don't see a causative link there. If you can find a study or any paper or any analysis that gives me that, then sure. But I just don't see it. And can I ask how much time I have left?
Yes, you have 2:45.
I think that's all I got. I think I can see the rest of my time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the last point about how you don't see it.
Hold up, man. Let me hit the button.
Oh, my bad.
All right, button is hit. Go ahead.
How you don't see how the music goes into the culture like that. Let me explain to you how it works. You can go watch countless of interviews and documentaries about it. You can just pick one, Google it yourself. But in music, in rap music, they actually brag about killing people. So if I killed your friend and his name Jake, in my song, I will say I'm smoking on Jake. You might not get these. You might not get these.
I'm familiar with rap music. I was big into it until I got into rock. So I know what you're talking about.
You understand how people talk about smoking on somebody and they talk about a human being is because they killed one of the ops. So they brag about the scores. They'll say we're up 24-7, meaning I've killed 24 of your homeboys. You killed 7 of mine. In Chicago, the whole culture of drill music came from them dissing each other dead friends, right? And if you go look at these interviews of the younger Chicago artists like Polo G, he said, we look up to killers. That's who you looked up to in the community. This is what you do. So because you want to make that next song. You want to make a song about killing their friends. You know what I'm saying? So you want to be the next person. This is the culture. I live in a place called Greensboro, which is about a place called High Point. And I know this is about to be anecdotal evidence. But people post on Instagram, my Facebook timeline, you already know I'm a shooter. And they captions, they pictures. You know what I'm saying? You know I'm a shooter. If you ain't got no bodies, you can't hang with me. That's cool. What's not cool is going to school, listening, growing up and be a doctor. That's not popping. You know what I'm saying? Football player popping, basketball player popping, rapper popping, trapper selling dope. You that guy. You that guy in the streets. This is just a true reality. And this is why a lot of people, when they comment on how to change culture, you don't know what you're talking about. There's 14-year-olds having birthday parties literally based around NBA Youngboy. NBA Youngboy killed at least 3 people per song. I listened to him. He got 2 verses, 2 people per song, but he averaged about 3 kills per song. And this is the problem with culture and why you can't change culture with social programs, because culture hasn't changed because of social programs. Do you know how many people, do you know how people abuse the SNAP system? Do you know people can go live in Section 8 houses and live there for $20 a month rent? That hasn't changed anything. Matter of fact, it made it worse because they can go spend the rest of their money on some dope. Secondly, you said your theory about police disruption causes more crime is literally just it's just a theory. And a lot of people in debates have habits of bringing up like theories that has no real basis. It's just something somebody
supported
thought
by
of.
experts in the fields of criminology and
I was about to say that. You think because you throw a name on there, somebody that's in that field, because I could easily go find somebody in that same field to disagree. So a consensus in one area doesn't equate to fact. And also I didn't say less police officers.
2 minutes.
Okay, I didn't say less police officers was necessarily bad. I said less police officers wouldn't mean less protection, which is blatant. Also, you said something about me using words and why use words. I need instead of attacking the words you use, attack the point of your argument. Don't say words that I can attack.
We were arguing definitions for a second, but you're just now critiquing the substance of my argument, and so yeah.
I've been doing that the whole time because you're using a word you use in your argument. I can attack that because it's a word you use in your argument.
No, I'm talking about you're attacking
the definition.
What defund the police is instead of what my argument is.
Because the only point we have in this conversation is because Minneapolis actually went through it. They actually voted on it. They actually taken action against it. So I mean, even like in your world, how you would like it, this is still just a hypothetical situation. Which I mean, we can continue it, but I'm done.
Okay.
All right. So.
All right, this is your last rebuttal. So you can go ahead
Oh, wow.
and
This has gone by pretty quick.
it's gone
Oh,
by pretty
sorry.
quick because you guys keep conceding your time.
Oh, that's true. All right. Let's try and stretch it out a little bit, shall we?
So, okay, so you have 5 minutes.
All right. I have a question, first of all. How exactly do we legislate the culture? Like, how do we change the culture through legislation, which is what we're talking about right now?
Well, we're talking about defunding the police, but you can't legislate culture at this point. That's the secret. That's the secret. You can't. There's no government program. There's no law or policy you can pass to currently change the culture unless you ban.
So, I must disagree, first of all. And so I have a question. Out of all this, like rap music that you say is like so bad for the culture, it was a product of, massive gang activity, right? Correct? Am I largely correct on that?
Probably stem from that, and it still has to do with
Yeah,
gangs.
gangster rap was gangster
Yeah,
rap.
gangster rap.
And so we also have to look at, what caused those gangs in the first place. What socioeconomic circumstances contributed to like the formation of these gangs, which then, control the culture so much. I argue it's poverty, as I have argued, this whole time. And so we can look at direct causative links to the rise and this gangster rap culture with gangs, and then we have to ask what led to the rise of gangs. Well, I argue it's primarily the war on drugs and how the illegalization and like the start cracking down on illegal narcotics pushed narcotic sales into the black market. So then gangs and cartels were able to gain so much power and so much social power and power of capital by exploiting the black market. And so I think there are ways we can legislate, decriminalizing and legalizing drugs and having them regulated within the legal market. I think that would go a long way to, the dispersion of gangs, and which would in turn lead down the line to a less gang-related culture. So I do think there are ways we can legislate to, I guess, correct culture, if we want to go with that type of rhetoric. But so I do think there are things that we can do to somewhat, alter the culture legislatively. And part of that is reducing poverty, as I said. And also, are you going to deny, this is a direct question, are you going to deny that education reduces poverty?
What do you mean education reduces poverty?
So more access to education, higher quality schools. Are you arguing that that somehow doesn't have any effect on poverty?
How long have the schools existed? How long have private schools existed?
I couldn't tell you. I don't see how that's relevant.
It's relevant because a lot of poor people can't afford those better education systems you talk about. And not only that, it's not even cool to go to school and listen in class.
Well, I'm talking about, public schooling here. So private school isn't really relevant. I'm talking about funding public schools, the thing the government controls.
Well, public schools are they are indoctrination programs, first off. Secondly, people are not going to school and listening. That's the part y'all that I get. You can have the best teacher in history up there. MLK himself can come back.
How do you legislate people to listen?
I'm gonna say this again. You can't.
So what can we do in response? You're just opposing everything I say. What is your plan for solving this crisis? I haven't heard anything from you.
I've told you.
You say change the culture, but you've never given us a method to change the culture. How?
Yes, I have. I'm doing it. You know what type of music I make? I make positive music by bringing people together, or things about politics and things of that nature. And my father, who was a teacher, caught kids listening to my music in his classes. So the way to change it is to combat it with something else. Instead of having them listening to music about gang making, killing each other, let's combat it with positive music. Instead of having them drug dealing and stuff like that, let's make something else cool. You have to combat it. Let's make this cool. The problem is everybody that does these type of things, when I was growing up, I'm not listening to nobody that wears a suit every day talking politically correct. That's just not what we respect. That's not what we relate to. So we need things to be cool. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, that's the truth. I know it sucks, but you have to combat it. You can't change it with legislation.
Once again, I must disagree, and I have to ask once again. Okay, I'll try and wrap this up. So once again, what are the circumstances that led to the rise of such I'd assume you'd say toxic culture? What are the circumstances that led to the a rising of that culture? How do you think it came about?
Gangs, all of this.
Okay, how did gangs come about? How did gangs and so much crime in communities come about?
There's a few reasons. I can go down a list of reasons. You can go down the single motherhood rate, because even Obama talked about a kid that doesn't grow up with both parents are more likely to be criminals, more likely.
Hold on. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Single parenting is a problem. So also my proposal includes social workers, and social workers have been proven to serve as another parental figure in a household. I actually have a quote here if you'd like me to read it about the effectiveness of social workers and how they serve as mentors to people who only have a single
10
parent.
seconds.
So do you support more social workers? Do you support the funding of more social workers to remedy the disadvantage of single parent households? Will you support that?
I would
Time.
if I could. Okay, I would if I could see some proof that it actually helps the community.
I have a direct quotation for you if you would
Hold
like
on.
it.
Time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
How long is this quote?
It is.
right.
Here it is. It is. I have a couple of them. I'll just get to in my next rebuttal.
All right. You don't have another rebuttal.
Oh, you want me to just say it then?
Say 1 or 2. Go ahead, bro.
Well, hold on. We're gonna start it on Bryson's time.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, then just ask me to say it and I'll say it.
You also don't forget that you also have your closing statements as well.
Oh, you can say it in
But
closing
yeah.
statement if you want.
Yeah. So anyway, so stop conceding your time. Matter of fact, if you concede your time, I'm just gonna bring it over to the next person.
Sounds great to me.
All right. So you have 5 minutes left. Bryson, this is your last rebuttal.
Okay. So you talk a lot about what caused gangs, what caused this culture, and the harsh truth that you don't want to hear is it doesn't matter because it's not a solution. It's not. You can talk about why gangs started all day long. But here's the things you're forgetting. The people that started these gangs, the people that started the BDs, the GDs, the current BDs and GDs don't give a flying crap about them. They can't tell these kids nothing. The reason why it started doesn't matter because that isn't a solution. You can't reverse that. Even if you say, a lot of people say, the white man put the guns in the black neighborhoods and that's why we're killing each other. Well, y'all put the guns up and started shooting each other with them. Did they force you to do that too? The white man put the drugs in the communities. You started selling them. Did they force you? Did they pick a gun in your head and say, sell this dope for me? I've been in houses and saw them cooking crack. So I know they doing it on their own will. They want to do it. And my whole point is, when you bring up why these things started, you can be 100% right about why they started, but it doesn't matter. That's not going to change. You can go tell the hoods right now, educate them on why it started. They don't give a crap. So the problem is, how can you change it now? There's no legislation that can do it. It's because the negative effects already here. It's already happened. What do we do now? You have to combat culture. Is that simple? Will it work? Guaranteed? Nope. Will it change most of minds? Nope. But that's the only way to even potentially do it is to combat it. Legislation won't. You can add 1 million social programs, bro. We can go to straight communism. The gangs gonna be running the neighborhoods. Them BDs we talk about, they gonna pop your ass too. Let me say something, bro. Literally, legislation won't do it. You can't legislate culture. Issues 30 years ago, 40 years ago, why these things started, the legislation that possibly could have put us in these scenarios, you might be right. What's the solution? It isn't social programs. Social programs hasn't helped. We've been adding social programs for years. You can't show me, you even said it yourself, crime has doubled.
No, I didn't say that. I said crime in impoverished communities is double that of wealthier communities. Crime has been stagnant since the 1980s with the big spike in the 90s, but it came back down.
Okay, let's even go with that. Impoverished communities. How do you change how that doubled? You can't do it with legislation. You can't. Unless you about to just...
Yes, you can. I just gave you solutions that have been proven to bring people out of poverty. Such as more funding to education.
How's that has been proven to bring people out of poverty?
Education is the #1 tool to bring people out of poverty. I can read you a quote here. On an international scale, if we gave, here's the quote. According to the UNESCO, that is the UN's, that is the United Nations, their global education monitoring team shows that nearly 60 million people on a global scale could escape poverty if they had just 2 more years of schooling.
What's that proof of that?
That's just a quote from the UN, an in-depth article that experts
I didn't ask for a quote. What's the proof of that quote?
2 minutes.
It was an in-depth analysis from authoritative figures at the United Nations.
Analysis of what? Don't just give me names and quotes. What do you know?
Analysis of the effects that education has on poverty. This is...
What did the analysis say? Tell me, how did they come to this conclusion? Tell me that.
Well, they were extrapolating conclusions from a study they did.
What study? What did the study say?
I'm not reading a complete study on a 40-minute debate.
No, you don't even know what the study said. Quotes doesn't prove your point, brother. And this is the problem. People think they got facts because somebody from the United Nations said something. What do you know?
I'd like to make it known. Bryson is disagreeing with expert opinion. The people that have studied for literally decades on this, he's disagreeing with expert opinion here.
I'm an expert opinion on. I have an expert opinion on the black community, and I guarantee you, they don't give a dang about that school because they're not listening to school.
Do you have a sociology degree? Do you have any type of credentials that give you greater authority on this topic?
Yes,
I've been citing authoritative sources this entire time, and you have not used one.
Yeah. I grew up here, and I lived here all my life, and my dad teaches here, and my dad is a super liberal, probably just as much as you, and he would literally agree with what I just said. These kids don't give a crap about school. So as soon as y'all realize that, y'all can stop talking about this little education talking point thing.
Well, I argue that the reason kids don't really care about school is because that underfunded schools in those areas are simply ineffective, which is why I want to give them more money so that they are better schools.
Oh, so the way to fix them not caring about schools is to give more money to the schools.
Let me put it this way. Are you denying that society and its greater influences have an impact on the individual?
Repeat that again.
Are you denying that society and its greater influence does not, or are you going to deny right now that society and the greater influences has an impact on the individual?
Society has an impact on individuals, yes.
So when we offer an incentive,
okay, hold on. Time, but here's what I'm gonna do. Just because you guys gave up so much of your time, you didn't realize what was gonna happen. You guys gave up about 8 minutes total. I'm just gonna have an 8-minute free for all where you guys can just talk freely amongst yourselves. All right. So you got 8 minutes perfect. just to clear this up with both of you guys. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Can I go back to what I was saying?
Go ahead.
All right. So will you deny? So you said that society does have an impact on the individual. So what's going to happen if we incentivize if we, using legislation, we give more money to schools, we make the schools better, we make them effective? Is that not an incentive for people to go to school more?
No. I mean, it's technically an incentive in theory.
That's a contradictory statement.
No, it's an incentive in theory. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you give all this money to schools, right? 14-year-old boy, he going to these schools, right? Probably not listening, no matter how much money he put in. And then when he in that class, y'all think he listening, but he in the back with his headphones on. You know what? We know what that song saying that he listening to. Pull up on the op, and I got the Glock. I'm gonna set some shots, spin they block, spin that thing again. Everybody getting shot. What you mean? Pull up on the scene with a red beam. What do you think has more of an effect? Him listening to somebody talk about spinning that block with that Glock every day, or that teacher that he don't even know what she's saying?
First off, I'd like you to cite some evidence that music is somehow a greater influence on the individual than an incentive to go more so than an incentive to get a better education. And also, my plan also includes the funding of social workers who have been proven to offer beneficial mentoring and advice to 90% of people who received their help. That is a direct quote from a Harris Interactive online survey from 2009.
Why do you keep talking about quotes?
Well, because it's quoting it's quoting the conclusions of a study. Are you just denying the fact that the conclusions of a study? It's an interactive online survey from the Harris Foundation.
Survey? Who's getting surveyed?
People who had access to social workers, who were themselves the people that were product of this bad culture you're talking about, who themselves agreed that they made better decisions due to the influence of that social worker. Are you just denying scientific evidence here? Are you just denying the use of evidence in an argumentative debate? Like, what are you trying to argue?
Do you think a survey is science?
A survey can be scientific. It's a form of research.
Can I ask you a question?
Any type of research class you take is going to talk about the effectiveness of surveys on the general population when done correctly.
But the thing is, a lot of people, when they say they got studies and stuff, they never can go deeper because they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm telling you how I can prove it right now. How many studies, polls, surveys said Trump was going to lose in 2016?
Oh my God!
No,
can we stick to the?
It's an example.
Here,
it's an example. How many studies by experts? How many experts told you that Trump had no chance of winning in 2016?
Okay, I don't want to go into that topic because it's not.
We don't have to. It's not about a topic.
Just to be clear, I'm gonna allow this just because I think what he's talking about is you're talking about surveys, and he's giving you an example of why surveys can be challenged.
All right, let's make this quick. So first of all, polling data is not necessarily like an academic survey. Polling data is much more loose. It is much less, let's say, scientific. Whereas a survey, and this survey I'm referencing, polled only people who had access to those social workers, whereas those polls also polled like apolitical people that didn't vote. This survey is surveying people who had direct access to social workers, and the survey is overwhelmingly conclusive that their access to social workers help improve their life decisions. 90% of people, 90% of people made better decisions due to that social worker.
How many people were surveyed in this specific study you're referencing?
I don't know. I have to pull it up. Do you want me
what
to get
if-
a sample size? Or we have 8 minutes. It's not really that
What if it's
important.
only 5? It is important because what if it's only 500?
I doubt an academic survey that was cited by the University of Tulane would be as bad as surveying only 500 people.
I promise you, there's a lot of.
You're just disagreeing with the methods of academia at this point, Bryson.
Yes, because I'm challenging this bullcrap that y'all think means correct or facts. You know this, right?
These are facts. Facts don't care about
No,
your feelings,
stop. Consensus does not equate to fact. A survey does not equate to fact. This is the problem with a lot of you people that are in school and think y'all are educated. The problem is y'all can't go deeper than these studies y'all are reading because y'all don't know anything. Y'all are taught to trust experts, even though experts do not all agree.
So, do you think that the scientific method is bad? Is that what you're trying to get at here? That somehow all of academia, all of scientific development, all of research that has given us like the computer you're working on now, are you saying that is somehow just not true, that it's not effective? Are you denying the entire concept of academia?
No, because this computer I'm on right now, nobody, 100% of people can confirm that I am on this computer talking to you two people right now. 100% of people
I'm
can
saying
confirm
that computer was developed by the scientific method, which you were saying is somehow not an effective way to measure society.
I'm talking about these surveys and these, because every time you talk, I have a direct quote. It was a survey. It was a study.
I'm citing academia, the things we use as evidence in an argument. Bryson, I'm citing facts, and you're just saying that my facts.
That's not
all right. Hold on. We got 3 minutes. So why don't we get back to the actual John here about defunding?
Okay, that's fair. Okay. Bryson, this entire time you've given me anecdotes. Facts don't care about your feelings, dude. Come on.
This is an anecdote. These surveys are based on people telling you their personal experiences. That is anecdotal evidence. You don't even realize that because you think because you said the word survey and expert, it meant something. This is what I'm talking about. Y'all can't go deeper than this because y'all don't, no disrespect, a lot of you college educated people don't know nothing. Y'all just don't. That's why when I come with common sense or then just typically makes sense, all y'all can say was, well, this quote, I can prove it with this quote.
Bryson, how do we come to a common sense?
Easy. You realize the way to change
because my common sense is a lot different than yours, but my common sense is backed up by facts and data. Yours is backed up by the anecdotal experiences of yourself. You have not brought a single data point to this argument. Seriously. What are you arguing here?
Can I ask you a question? Was that survey you just talked about, wasn't that based on people's experiences?
It is based on people's experiences. Yes, their experiences with interactions with the social worker. The thing we're studying here. Surveys are an effective way, if they're done correctly,
can I ask a question?
It's determining like sociological impact.
What's the definition of anecdotal evidence? Get it to me real quick.
See, when we refer to anecdotes, we're talking more about your single personal experience, not a scientific like data point. Are you saying that surveys are somehow like an ineffective use of like?
I'm saying a survey you just referenced is anecdotal evidence because I have 3 other people in here. I can literally go to all of them right now, and I guarantee they will all say that there's no legislation that can change culture. Would I be able to say that's scientific based on a survey of 4 people that lived and grew up in the black
community? Here's the difference. You're surveying very general things. This survey targeted a single question to a very specific demographic. So those are not comparable.
Bro, this is as specific as you gonna get. We all Negroes, brother. Let me tell you something.
Okay, we're not surveying on race here. We're surveying based on the impact of social workers. You're trying to compare apples to oranges here, dude. Come on. You're just denying academia at this point.
No, I'm not.
Do you have any substantive critique of my argument?
You don't have substance.
Think about data the whole
time. You haven't. I don't think you even gave me the only true thought of yours that you have given me is what your view is on how defunding the police should go.
I have proved a causative link between poverty.
No,
you
didn't
crime,
prove anything.
And I have given ways to reduce poverty as well.
You have not given any way to reduce poverty. Not a realistic one.
Education and social workers.
We've had education for a very long time. Hasn't done anything. Is that a fact?
We've had underfunded and ineffective education in especially impoverished communities, considering that education is paid for by property taxes, which are astronomically low in impoverished communities.
But
we attack my substance.
We do have education though, right?
All right, time. 40. This is 40-minute debates. 40-minute debates. All right. So we're gonna move into closing statements. All right. So anything that you want to wrap up about what the other person said or anything that you needed to attack one last time, you can go ahead and address it in your closing statements or read it if you have one prepared, whichever one. But Ryan, you are first. So you have 2 minutes on your closing statements.
All right. So I guess for my closing statement, I will restate my plan. That is to defund the police and invest it into social programs, especially education and social workers. I think we all know that by now. But also, I'd like to point out that I have proved a causative link between poverty and crime. I have proved a causative link between poverty and the rise of gang culture, which contributes to a culture of gangs. And I have proved a causative link between the war of drugs and the illegalization of those drugs and the development of gangs as well. So there are ways we can legislate to change the culture in what would be considered a positive direction. However, what Bryson has done this whole time is simply critique my use of academic sources, somehow disregarding the entirety of academia in an attempt to just obfuscate from talking about the actual substance of my argument. I have given you many ways where we could reduce this kind of impoverished culture. I've given you legislative ways that we can incentivize, which is all we can do, incentivize the alteration of culture. I have given you multiple ways to incentivize, or more so decentivize, a turn to crime. He's just ignoring them. He hasn't given me any substantive critique here. And so I guess for my last couple of minutes, I would say that for this entire argument, I have linked, poverty and crime. I have linked the way we can alleviate poverty. And then I guess when we can, if we have a causative link between poverty and crime, the alleviation of that poverty will also lead to the alleviation of crime, especially in the long term. And so I guess what I'm going to end this on is that my logic follows. Whereas Bryson has not given me any solutions of his own, he has simply only critiqued my solution. His one solution is change the culture, which he says by producing counterculture. But there's no way to do that on a wide scale like there would be legislatively. We've been trying to shift the culture for decades now, and where's it got us? You're telling me we haven't been trying to shift the culture?
Nope.
All right. Well, I guess I'll end it there.
Okay. All right. Well, this has certainly been interesting. All right. So, Bryson, you have 2 minutes, man. Go ahead and do your closing statement, bro.
He's had a few falsehoods, and I just want to, correct them for my closing statement. Without interruption, please. But so he claimed that he brought up, he had links between this and gang culture, this about the rise of gang culture, and I acknowledge all of them if you rewind the tape. But I told him, how is that a solution? You knowing the history of gang culture, how is that going to change gang culture now? Because these younger kids don't give a crap about who even started the gang culture. They don't care. It's not going to change it. You can go tell every one of them right now, hey, this is why gang culture started. They're going to be like, okay, I'm not killing anybody no more. You think that's going to happen? Yeah, okay, kid, try that. So it's not going to happen. Secondly, you said take them out of poverty. Taking them out of poverty would change the culture. If you took more people out of poverty, yeah, you have to do that with the majority of people in poverty. And if you think the majority of people are going to get out of poverty because you added more social programs, then why hasn't that happened through social programs yet? Why hasn't it happened through social programs yet? We have social programs. So we have something we can look at and compare it to what you're talking about, and there's nothing there. Thirdly, every time you brought up a study, it was, guess what, based in anecdotal evidence. And you think because you say the words expert said it, that means it's a fact, which is actually very sad, which is why you got frustrated because I kept asking you to go deeper and it was hard for you to do so. Secondly, I didn't offer any solutions. I gave you the only solution we have, which is counterculture. Yes, you're correct. That's the only solution. That's the only way it can happen. We've tried everything else in act, like everything else that you brought up. We have proven it. 30 seconds. The only thing you are offering is more of it. Why are you giving more to something that has proven not to work? To me, that is a counterproductive statement and doesn't make any sense. The only way to change culture is counterculture. Defunding the police won't change anything if you take the money and put it towards social programs.
All right. Whoo, man. I was expecting when Bryson came on that this would be, if anything, entertaining. And this has definitely been an entertaining debate for sure. So, I know Bryson had fun. So, Ryan,
I had a lot of fun.
Did you have any fun, man? All right, cool, man. That's good.
I'm gonna do more of these.
Yeah, you got to, man.
I like debates.
You got to do that.
I think I've done pretty well so far. So
hey, it's up to the people, man. It's up to the people.
I agree.
Democracy
at its finest.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that being said, for everybody that's watching this, you can vote on who you believe won this debate. And it should be based off of who gave the best argument, not just whose opinion you agree with the most. So definitely check it out. The poll will only be up for 24 hours on Instagram at 40-minute debate. So make sure that you vote quickly. But guys, where can people find you? Ryan, where can people find you online?
I'm on primarily TikTok and Instagram. However, I have made a YouTube channel recently. I've been posting much. I'm waiting to get a better microphone, as we can tell. But everything is the same. At Leftism is liberty, with underscores or spaces, whichever the platform requires. And so make sure to check out my stuff if you like what you see.
Awesome.
I talk more about like sociology and politics, especially. And I think I go into pretty in-depth analysis about my stuff. So if you're interested.
Dope. Bryson, where can people find you, bro?
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. You can find me on Instagram at Bryson Creates, Twitter, Real Bryson Gray, on YouTube at Bryson Gray, and I will be airing my first podcast episode of Caitlin Bennett Monday at 2 p.m. So tune in for the controversy.
Dope. So everybody else, if you enjoyed this debate and you want to hear more, then make sure that you follow us on IG, you subscribe to us on YouTube,